So, what we are talking about today on Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat is learning and how important learning is to you as an entrepreneur. And we're going to talk about your favorite books, your favorite movies. I got a few in here, and I'll share those with you. But today, I wanted this to be an open mic. Richard, come on stage. You got to read a book or two. All of you in the audience, just come on stage and share with us your favorite book or your favorite movie and why that has impacted you as an entrepreneur. Mimi, Michelle, what do you think about today's topic?
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear everybody's suggestions and maybe new things to look out for that might be coming out this year.
I
Yeah, I
thought,
mean,
well, go ahead, Michelle.
who doesn't love TV or a good movie, right? Something that really is inspiring or just makes you feel a certain way. There's so many ways that that kind of media can be useful, right? And not to supplement books, but or undermine books, but yeah, I think maybe we should make a movie, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, Colin. But
There we
anyways,
go.
that's another topic.
It'll
Yeah.
be it'll be a season, a new *Halt and Catch Fire*.
Yeah, who's
We'll just
playing
continue
you?
that series going on.
Yeah, I think
Um,
you're played by Leonardo
that's actually one of
DiCaprio.
my choices in the article and for today for movie is *Halt and Catch* or shows. Actually, I haven't written it
Yeah.
yet. I just didn't realize it hasn't been written yet. I've been working on this article,
Oh,
but it's *Halt and Catch Fire* was a great show for entrepreneurs to see how you can identify technology shifts or changes, the paradigm shift, and then adapt to it and then grab onto that. And *Halt and Catch Fire* was a Netflix series, truly phenomenal. I think from an entrepreneur's perspective, just watching that, I really that was a reflection of Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. That was a reflection of the life that I lived over the last 25 years, but I was 10 years before my time. So it was a little bit before my time, but that's why I think Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, you're right, could be the next one. But so that's the first one I'm gonna come up with there is *Halt and Catch Fire*. And if you're in the audience and you have a book or a movie or a series or something that's inspired you as an entrepreneur, just come on stage and share that with us. We are, believe it or not, are a live show. I know those of you in the audience here know that, but those of you who are listening to this in podcast or on YouTube, this is a live show. You can come every Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern, and we just have a lot of fun. And today it's open mic day. It's open mic. I love these open mics better than any other shows. I'm sorry. I love our authors. I love our billionaires. I love when they come on our show. But the fact is, it's nice to have the community come on stage and just share with us what movies or books or mini series or whatever it is that they've read or watched that has influenced them as an entrepreneur. So the first one we came up there with is *Halt and Catch Fire*. It's a Netflix series. It was really cool, and it was all about what I learned from that, or what it reflected in me in my life, was how you can catch a wave and how you can catch these changes, these paradigm shifts that occur from time to time. And of course, we all know AI is like probably the biggest in the world right now that's happening. So, all right, Michelle, what's your first book or movie?
movie, right? We're talking about shows or movies, right?
Whatever you
Not
want,
books.
movies, books, it doesn't matter.
Okay. I know this might be
I know you
controversial.
love the blue thing, the blue
I
ocean.
know that's a book,
I
not a
know, we're
movie.
talking about all of it today.
Okay, but I'm going to say a TV show that I absolutely loved and I thought was so fun and educational was Silicon Valley.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh, do you remember when he
Yes.
goes to the doctor's office and he says, "I'm sick," and he's about to throw up, and he's, "What's your issue?" "I just got an offer for $50,000,000." It was some crazy little it was like a total startup moment, and here he was,
I
he's so
thought
stressed
that
out,
was
he's
so
throwing up,
good.
he can't handle this startup environment. I thought that was hilarious.
What I liked about it was they're enjoying the ride. Obviously, they're like, it's an emotional roller coaster, but I love how it's these friends. And what did I just tell you today when we were talking about today's show, Colin? What I love about entrepreneurship is not necessarily the products I'm working on, but I absolutely love when you're with the right group of people. That's what does it for me. Like that you're with this group of people, you're doing cool things, you're trying to figure out how to make everybody's life better and your customers, of course. And you're just really gelling. To me, there's nothing better than that. That's what I love.
I'm with you there. I'm with you there. And we have on the stage, and we're just going to jump right away. Navin, you back there? Hopefully I can do that. Oh, Clubhouse let me do that. Navin, if what's your favorite book, movie that sort of influenced you as a founder? Navin? All right. Well, Navin is getting his microphone ready there. It's on the bottom right there. Navin or Naveen, I'm sorry about the pronunciation. I think one of the books that we just recently did an article for Startup Club. Yeah, should we do cool articles on Startup Club? I was thinking it was for Forbes or for another magazine, but we did one for Startup Club, and it was the top 25 books. And I think the first one that really pops out for me was written by Michael Gerber, and it was called The E-Myth Revisited. And I think what I really picked up from the E-Myth was this idea or this concept that it's all about the systems, not the people. Now, this is going to sound weird. Just bear with me for a second, okay? It's all about the systems, not the people. And that's how McDonald's functions. They function by creating systems and then training people on those systems. Now, we all know that good people are what makes a company different, especially when you're a smaller business. And so maybe that doesn't quite apply to smaller businesses, but you do need great people. But what that book did teach me was that systems are extremely important and that people will come and go. Let's be honest, they're going to come and go. Employees are going to come and go. And if we can create systems and procedures so that when they do come and they do go, then we're we're dealing with less the losses will be mitigated because of those changes, right?
Institutional knowledge, they call it, Colin. You
Sorry,
want to
institutional knowledge?
Yeah, you want to have your SOPs, your standard operating procedures. But
I
for
never
me,
heard.
I look at it too a little bit differently. Sorry, I know this is your thing, but I look at it as we want everybody's life to be easier too. Trust me, it makes everyone's life easier, especially when you're talking about your ops team. You know what I tell my ops team? I want you to feel bored at work. Why do I say that? Because I want them to feel like they can do other things and think of other ways to make money and make the company grow because their normal job is boring. Why is it boring? It's boring because everything's running so smoothly, Colin. And I see my friend Dawn down there. I know she would agree with me as someone who runs a lot of stuff. Yeah. We want it to be boring so that we can focus our energies and brain power on things to grow and make life better and profits better, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. We also wrote another article that came out in the newsletter. If you're on Startup Club, we have a newsletter that we do every month. It's called the Startup Club Edge, and it's really jam-packed. I've been writing this morning for about 2 hours working on an article for that newsletter, and it's really packed full of good stuff. And last month we talked about the top 25 books. This month we're going to add in the top 10 movies. And let me just going to go to Google. I have to go to Google actually to search for it right now. I'll get it faster on Startup Club. But the top 10 movies that we've done as well. It's the lead article right now on Startup Club. The Social Network was number one. Oh, I love that movie. Well, Mark Zuckerberg and then the guys that tried to copy Mark Zuckerberg copied the Winklevoss twins. Do you remember that movie, Michelle?
I do remember that movie. It was very good. Facebook guys, right?
So here's what I wrote. I wrote key lessons I learned. Ideas are worthless. Acting on them is key. Just ask the Winklevoss twins. So the Winklevoss twins could have launched Facebook too, but they didn't. They may have come up with the idea, but ideas are worthless. Let's be honest. It's about acting on those ideas, making them happen instead of just talking about them. That's the key lesson I learned from the movie The Social Network. I thought that was really good. Again, if you're in the audience, really, please raise your hand, come on stage, and talk to us about what lessons you've learned from what books you've read or movies you watched or series you watched, because we all want to learn from that. We all want to understand what it is that we do and how we are successful. And can we learn that from literature? Can we learn that from movies? Can we learn that from
From
streaming
books.
television? So if you're in the audience, please raise your hand. It's Friday afternoon. we want this to
I
be a
know.
group session,
All
not
right,
just a Colin and
I'm going to
Michelle.
be a little weird here, and I'm going to say
Oh, you're
one
going
of
for it.
my favorite books is Start, Skill, Exit, Repeat. No, I'm not being a kiss ass. I promise I'm not. But it is a phenomenal book that you wrote, Colin. And I know that it took you, whatever, 10 years, over 10 years to write it. But I like it because, and I know you don't like it when I say this, to me, I think of it like a reference book. Like every chapter is a standalone and you can just pick it up and get really good tidbits. So I'm going to, hats off to you, my friend.
Like, I can't argue with you on that one, obviously. I was surprised to see that someone sent me a video and they were in Thailand and they sent me a video of it being featured in this particular store in Thailand. I'm like, I never in my mind, never in my life would have ever thought that my book would be in Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand. It was incredible. It's a good book. It really does try to break it apart. It makes it simple. We wrote it for the ADHD entrepreneur, over 200 people interviewed, 24 now global awards. We got another one last week. 24 global awards and recognitions. So it continues to break into the mainstream and become an iconic business book, which I never imagined it would be. Let me give you one that I really liked. Oh my gosh, from rise to fire to fall to start up again was The Greatest Showman. I know I love this music in The Greatest Showman too, right? The Greatest Showman. And what key lessons I learned from that movie, when things go really bad, you can still rebuild. And the second thing is it takes a village or community of diverse people to raise a startup. It takes a village or community of diverse people to raise a startup.
I know that's so inspiring.
You don't think of that, right? I
It's
know there's a lot of
inspiring, right?
anti
Because
DAI
as
right now, but
said,
the reality is it's diversity that makes us stronger, and we should
yeah,
celebrate that, and we should recognize that. And it reminds me of Zappos. Zappos, how they were so
Tony
quirky.
Shea. Yeah.
They actually literally had a moral, like one of their value statements was, "We hire quirky people. We hire weird people." Was actually the truth. That's the actual statement.
And remember what they did? Like after
What?
training, if you didn't like it, they would give you whatever it was, $1,000, and you could be
It
out
was
the
like
door.
$10,000 to leave or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was quite brilliant, quite frankly, because we don't want anyone here that's not. They're not in it. They're not
Yeah.
in it to win it. That's okay, man. Let's all just be who we are.
I don't know. I like that. We hire quirky people, right? The Greatest Showman. I thought that was a great movie because it really did demonstrate that if you bring a unique people together and then they can perform as a team,
Right.
and then also adversity, like going through from the rise to the fall, the fire and everything, and then the rise again. So that was a pretty cool movie. What's next, Michelle? You got another one on your list there? I got
I
like
do.
10
I
of them,
do.
but
All right. So
hope in
I
the
didn't.
audience, y'all come up on
I
stage.
know.
You got
Come on,
movies,
help us
Richard. You got a
out.
movie. You got a book, Richard.
It
Come
can
on.
be
You got
as
something
fun
you can
or
share with us.
serious as you want it to be. So another one that I really enjoyed, which is actually relatively recent show, and I've actually had the opportunity to meet them, is Joy. Colin, the Joy. All right, so she was the first lady to like really go on to, I think it was QVC. She was selling mops. She was in a rather desperate situation.
I've heard about this movie. I have not
This
seen it yet.
movie is Jennifer Lawrence. It's so
Okay.
good. And her son actually is the CEO of her new company. I actually met him recently. But I loved her energy and her spirit. And she embraced the opportunity. She got up there and people were telling her not to whatever, be herself, let's just say on the TV when she was selling her mops. They were spin mops, and she didn't listen to them, and she became massively successful, turned her life around and her children's life around, and now she's the godmother of selling on TV. Like she flipped that universe around just by being true to herself and believing in herself and being entertaining, quite actually, when she was selling, like enjoying it and being entertaining. So that, if you haven't seen that movie, you may have not seen it yet, Colin. That's a definite watch, and I think you and your wife and your daughter would totally enjoy it.
Yeah. You know what movie? Sorry, movie. You know what book that also did not make our top 25 list? I'm surprising. I'm just looking at it right now. And by the way, when we did the 25 list, we didn't actually do it ourselves. We used Grok was an engine, AI engine to help us produce the list. But one that was not on this list, your Blue Ocean was, by the way. But one that was not on
It's a
this
great
list
book.
was Crossing the Chasm. And
Iconic.
25, I think in 2025, I know we had him on this show and we interviewed Jeffrey
Yeah.
Moore, and he was interviewed for the book as well. But I think in 2025, that book is probably one of the most relevant books you can read today because it's all about how do you catch a wave? How do you catch a tech wave? How do you succeed in a chasm? Right? We have a couple chasm dwellers here in the office. They're metaverse chasm dwellers. I call them that. They're pretty funny. They don't get me wrong, it's a serious company. They've invested millions of dollars in this company. But at the same time, that what they're doing is they're surviving in the metaverse and they're scanning museums. IMX3. And it's a pretty cool company. They're on an incubator here and they're trying to find a way to get to the other side. And Jeffrey Moore's book, Inside the Tornado, Crossing the Chasm, those two books, honestly, really, I don't think there'll be a better book. I don't think there'll be a better book than those two books that can really epitomize the concept of catching a wave or catching a technology shift.
It is a
So
great
that's
book.
my favorite for 2025. I don't know why it's not on our top 25 list. It's not
I
there
don't
at
know.
all. And I know it was done by AI. I think it's just a little old. And sometimes people are like, it's too old. It's not
It's very,
relevant. It's relevant. It's
it's
so
very
relevant.
textbooky, but yeah, it's I that one is definitely timeless. I would say that for sure. And we were just talking about that in a marketing meeting that we just had. Like how you market products at different stages is important. We have a product that we're working on that's a really cool new product and no one else is doing it, and we have a problem, not a problem, let's just say a challenge, because some of the team members are like, oh my gosh, it must be perfect, but it doesn't, because it's groundbreaking, it's new, it doesn't have to be perfect. So I think there's so many lessons, and I think there's a lot of cliff notes out there. So you don't. It's like a textbook. Let's be honest, Colin. But if you can just decompose the graph that they have, and the tactics, and who's adopting your products, and the trials and opportunities at different points, like that is very useful. And I think that is Jeffrey Moore's biggest
Yeah.
contribution there, was doing that graph.
So what's a good marketing book? I'm looking at our list right here. We have
Oh
on
gosh,
Startup Club.
marketing. While you're looking there, I'm just going to say another book that
It's
I.
not here, but the Purple Cow. Remember the Purple Cow
You know
from
what? I don't think I've read
I,
that
th-
one.
I thought that was pretty cool. Like this idea, and they actually feature a place in Ontario, this candy store, and
Uh
I
huh.
drive by it like every year. We go to the cottage. We have a place up there, and my gosh, wrote that book, The Purple Cow? Mimi,
Is
can you
that
look?
Goodwood? Goodwood?
No,
No.
it
All right, I'm
was
going to look it up. Mimi probably knows, but I'm going to look it up too.
yeah, no, it was good because it's all about being different, unique.
Seth Gooden.
Yeah,
Seth
that's what
Godin,
I said.
yes,
Good
that's
in.
Yeah,
correct.
Yes.
good one, Michelle.
All
Seth
right.
Godin,
Yes.
yeah. And I actually had to sub in for Seth Godin on a speech once. His plane was delayed, and I got a call at 6 a.m. at Deluxe, and they said Seth Godin's been delayed, so can you jump in and speak, do the keynote?
Oh
And for
wow,
that moment, yeah, I said it was a moment. It was whatever.
that was really cool.
Yeah, it was cool, but it was actually a big company that like whatever. But anyway, so that book, The Purple Cow, that I thought that was really good about being different, being unique and different. I see that at paw.com. We're always whenever we have a product that is unique and different, we win.
Yeah.
Whenever we try to copy like the shampoo debacle, went into shampoos.
Or
We had
the vitamins, or
100-year
the.
supply of shampoos, exactly. We was a disaster and we failed. But when we come up with something unique and different, we succeed. And that's what it's all about at any company you're in. And marketing's the same thing. Is if you're just the same old, you're just not going to succeed. You got to find a way to be different, unique and different. And I like that. I like the way that in our book we talk about a gentleman that Michelle and I have met. Maybe I think you met her too, him too, is Joe Foster, and he's turning 90 this year. He was the founder of Reebok, and it was just fascinating how back in 1979 he had $9 million in revenue and tried to crack into the United States. And it wasn't until he got 3 5-star reviews in a magazine, got a distributor, and then Jane
Jane
Fonda on her
Fonda.
own decided to wear these shoes, and within 4.5 years went from 9 million to $900 million, and actually became the largest shoe company in the world in 2006, 2007. Reebok was the name of the company, and it's fallen back since then. But the reality is, it was about being that purple cow. It was about being different. It was about being unique. And when we try to copy, we fail. When we come up with something unique and different, or even if we just change it up a little bit, right?
That's right. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to say the next one while we wait for people to join us on the stage here. I'm a huge fan of Peter Drucker. His book, I'm trying to, God, what was the name of it? All right. So I'm looking it up, but this book to me was very impactful. And I'm going to tell you why, Colin. It was because his whole thesis is really about prioritizing.
What
I'm
book
going to
was it?
say, as an entrepreneur, that is one of the hardest
What
things
book
to
was it?
do. I know, I'm looking right now. It's called The Effective Executive. It was written in 1966. Wow, I didn't realize it was that long ago. So, this book, I found it extremely impactful. I'm getting a lot of feedback, Colin. I think it's from you. Yeah, it is from you. It's really strange. But yeah, it really is. We all love to brainstorm. I know you do, Colin, and there's like a million ideas, but you cannot be effective unless you deprioritize things and say no to things. And that is hard. So when you can really like figure out like what are the top priorities and get yourself and your team and your coworkers to focus on it, that is an extremely powerful skill set, and that's when you really get things done. So I love that book. I will always recommend it, and if you haven't read that one, folks, I highly recommend it.
What's also another very cool book? Ogilvy on Mather,
You turned
1984
me on to that one. That's a
advertising
great
book.
one.
And this is something that is so freaking traditional. Like, go back to that story about Joe Foster and the Reebok and the book and the reviews. Getting reviews. Oh, how important are reviews today? How important are was getting an influencer? Jane Fonda actually paid for the shoes. I asked him that, who paid for the shoes? And he said Jane Fonda actually paid for those shoes on her own. But the reality is, getting an influencer, getting reviews, like these are key tenets of business. You go back to the 1984 book Ogilvy and Mather, an advertising executive's geniuses, and they wrote out some concepts in this book that really, something that I've been following through all my life. One of them is, what's the most important thing in advertising, and how do you get the most attention? And they came up with three ideas. One was babies, sex, and animals, dogs, cats, whatever. Those are the three things that fuel advertising. And even to this day, you see it in advertisements. You see those three things. Now, don't combine them all together, of course, but do think about them as, like, it really is a formula for advertising that can grab attention. I know you're in the business of paw.com, Michelle, and you run that company, but
Oh,
animals
I know.
have always been a
I'm
feature of
lucky
your
me,
products or
right?
your
Lucky
ads.
me. And I'm always telling the team, like, they were posting these very dour, sad expressions on dogs. I'm like, no, that's not what people want to see. They want to see happy dogs. We immediately see improvements, especially in our social media, social ads. Just I don't even actually want to put people calling it in most of the photo shots because it's just so nice. People enjoy it, and I think studies have shown this too. When you're looking like at a nice picture of a dog or a cat, or just it's just it makes you feel good, and we're happy that we're able to give people a little bit of pleasure by looking at cool dog products and cool dogs.
Yeah, and also, how about Wolf of Wall Street? I like that. I love that movie. I mean, it was definitely entertaining.
Yeah, hello everyone.
The fall. Hello, Arbor. We'll get with you in a second. The Fall and the Rise of Stratton Oakmount, and it was by Jordan Belfort. And the lessons I learned on that one was, one, first of all, don't piss off the regulators. He literally, I don't know if you remember the scene in the movie. He's on the yacht and he's like throwing the lobster over the yacht at the guy. Don't piss off the regulars. And second is creating a sales playbook with scripts for your salespeople. That actually works. A lot of people have used the methodologies that came out of that movie for their businesses. I know a number of people who have used it and have been very successful. Scripts do work. Creating a sales playbook does work. And we've been working with Mimi and I have been working with Dan Larson and Jack Daly over the last few months to try to put their theories into a workbook that we're creating called the Scale Workbook. Surprise, called Scale. We did one called Start. We're doing a workbook called Scale. And that workbook includes his work about how to create a sales playbook. So that movie really did teach me a few things. And I know it was like a total off the wall crazy movie, but I thought that was interesting. All right, we have a couple people on stage right now.
Yeah, let's let
Rohan,
them talk.
yeah, Rohan Rao.
Rohan, it's yours, man. You're on mute.
Yeah, hello. Hi everyone.
Hi, go for it.
So what discussion is going on? I just came.
You what?
Yeah. Actually what
We're having trouble hearing you, Rohan. So we'll come back to you. Let's go to Aber, ABR. Aber, AJ.
Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry to interrupt your conversation, but can I ask you a question? Could you be so kind to read the book on the chat so I can download it? I'm so sorry. I'm thousand
All right, so
times sorry.
you
So,
want which book? I'm sorry, is it because we're talking
the
about a
books
lot
you
of
are
them here?
going. If it's possible, all the books, so
All
we
the
can
books.
go through and we
Oh,
can
okay. Yeah,
revise them. And
that's a
if
great
it's
Yeah,
possible,
question.
can you save your podcast so someone
Yes,
can listen it, because the
yes.
time zone in the place where I am right now, so it's 2 o'clock.
Okay.
I can.
Hey, let me just tell you, okay? So we have a website. You can see up at the top, startup.club. And this lovely lady, Mimi, publishes podcast and all the transcripts and a blog post for every single one. So in about a week, you will be able to see
Thank you very much.
this
Thank you
list.
very much.
Absolutely. That's a
God
great
bless you.
suggestion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
yeah. We also have the article out on Google right now. You can just go to Google
Thank
and
you,
type in.
Colin. You saved a lot of business and you
He's trying to
even
write
don't
it
know
down.
about.
You're
Yeah.
so
Thank you very
precious.
much.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. So sorry to interrupt.
No, that's a good question. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's an
All
article that's
right.
on Startup Club right now called Startup Club's Best 25 Must Read Books for Aspiring Entrepreneurs in 2025. We also have done one for movies. The next newsletter is going to include some additional articles around. I'm working on one, the best streaming series as well, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of sub work, but we're putting these articles together. They're based on not just my opinion or someone else's opinion. They're based on a group of individuals who look at it and say, okay, these are the best books we think you should listen to in 2025 or read or watch these movies, etc. Rohan, you're back. Oh, Steve, we've lost him again. All right. Michelle, I'm going to go with the next one here.
Yeah, what would that be?
The next book here for me would be Rich Dad Poor Dad. I love that
Hmm.
one.
And
I know it's
again,
such a classic
one I
book
haven't
that,
seen.
but if you're like most people make their wealth in this world in real estate, and I thought that was a really good one. And what that taught me, that book was all about this idea of having assets that make you money and assets that don't make you money. Like your house doesn't make you money. You might have a car or a trailer or a truck or I don't know, one of those trailers you drive around with a room in it. What do you call that? I don't
A
know one.
camper?
A camper, whatever it is. A slideshow here. Here we go. But the fact is, these things don't make you money. They're assets that you own, but don't make you money. But that show taught me all about, look, when you own an asset that makes you money, that's different than an asset that doesn't.
Do you know when that book was written?
I was like 25 years ago or something like that.
Oh my God. All right.
a long time ago.
The whole concept. So
Yeah.
leverage your whatever you own, whatever it is.
No, it's
Yeah.
make certain to invest in assets that make money versus
Right.
assets that drain money.
Passive income. That's what
Some
it is.
assets drain
Yeah.
money, some assets make money. And
Right.
that's a good. This is not on our list. I don't know why we're coming up with it, but the Millionaire Next Door. I thought that was a great one. I don't know who wrote that one, but I read that one years ago. The Millionaire Next Door, and it demonstrated there are a few little tips they had in that book. One of them was the average person who is a millionaire owns
Yeah.
their vehicle more than 10 years.
Oh, I love
The
that.
average person owns their house more than 15 or 20 years. Because what happens is when you if you switch around a lot, you're paying commissions, you're not gaining wealth, you're not building wealth. It's interesting that when you have a little bit of patience, and also you don't always go for the latest greatest car or whatever it is, then you could actually save money. And I'm actually I'm a living example of that, aren't I, Michelle? Because my
I know.
Tesla I
I
bought
know.
in 2015. It's over 10 years old now.
I
And
know.
so I have, for different reasons. I just don't feel like the new Teslas are that much better than the ones I currently have. And quite frankly, I don't need the super self-driving. I have basic self-driving, and I don't want it watching me and watching my eyes and making me look at the road and do all that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah. What do you got? What else you got there?
I'm going to throw out a funny one. Okay. You made me think of it when you were talking about like renting out a camper or something. The money pitch. Okay. Like we've talked a lot about books and movies that are like very like insightful. That is too in a way too, right? Like the
What was
money
that? Was
pitch.
that a book or a movie? I'm
Oh,
trying to.
it's a super silly movie, but they
A
buy
money pit.
real estate and then they just keep throwing money into it. And it's just like a disaster.
Sounds like my beach house.
Yes, yes, exactly. There's lessons to be learned like that too, right? It's just they just if I just do this, it's going to be okay. Like for me, that was like, oh God, don't make that mistake. You get all like stars in your eyes and optimistic and all that stuff, and then you just make one stupid mistake and you just keep sinking your money. There is a time to quit, Colin. There is a time to just stop the madness. And I think that's valuable for entrepreneurs as well.
I agree. I totally agree. Let me give you another one. One of my favorite movies that I talk about in the article that we wrote, Glengarry Glen Ross, 1992. It's a boiler room. There's trying to sell land in Florida, swamp land in Florida. By the way, it probably would have been a good buy had they bought it. But the key lesson I learned from that movie, was always be closing. ABC. That's interesting. That's something that I really did pick up on that one. I'm like, okay, always be closing. There's always these statements like Jerry Maguire. Lesson I learned from that one was,
Follow the money, right?
don't follow the money, but really success depended on focusing what matters and following your why. Because if you remember in the movie, he just gets up and leaves. He says, "No, I'm not doing this anymore," and he walks out of the office and he creates his own path because he's following his own why. Is true, and throughout the movie, he's actually fighting that why. He's trying to make money, but really the athlete is like, no, you gotta, you know, you gotta do more than that. And it really was a movie about him coming to terms with the idea of following your why versus going for money. I thought it was. If you're in the audience, you want to just come on stage, throw in a
And
movie
I'm going to
or
throw
a
out
book
another
that you've
one
learned from,
too. I
just feel
know.
free to come jump on stage.
I guess I'm feeling a little funny today.
Why?
I'm going to say Office Space. Watching
Uh,
that, it's so satirical. We all know
you
this
talking
about.
about the UK version or something?
Yes, yes. No, it's a U.S. version, Office Space. But
Oh, the
yeah,
movie. Oh, I know what you're
the
talking about. Yeah,
show,
yeah,
there
yeah.
is a TV series, but it just watching that is, and this is exactly why I don't want to be in corporate America. Like it's just so silly and the just like the bureaucracy of everything. And they're just all working these very unfulfilling corporate jobs, and they just make up stuff to add a little bit of drama to the monotony of their work life.
For
And to
Gilbert.
me, I actually find that entertaining and meaningful, because it's okay. That's just why I don't do this, right? Yeah, the money might be consistent and all that, but this is like exactly why I didn't do that. I would just want to jump off the roof, literally, Colin.
Exactly. I got one for you. Iron Man. He's a
Oh, you're
successful
funny.
billionaire. I know, and you know what? You heard me
Don't
say
say it. I
this.
know what you're going to say. Go
You know
ahead.
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it because technology can be a game changer for startups. Okay, and when you strap on that AI suit, you can
Shut
become
it.
Iron Man. It's amazing. I know you're gonna. I was gonna say it, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. The world's changed for me, and with AI, it's done incredible things, and I've been able to, as an entrepreneur, accelerate my wealth generation by using AI. I think that's pretty cool. And anyone can do that now. We just have to embrace it. We have to understand it and we have to embrace it. And it's not hard to understand because trust me, I'm not a geek. I only aspire to be one. I've always tried to I've run tech companies, but the reality is around me have always been doing things for me. So I'm really quite inept. I'm not that smart when it comes to certain things. But when it comes to AI, I've learned as much as I can to try to put myself ahead, and I do everything from writing contracts, articles, even if the articles, like a lot of the articles that I write, I'm not allowed to use AI whatsoever. So what I do often is use the AI for research, and it compresses the time to produce an article dramatically by using that AI research. So I think Iron Man's a good example of how we can use technology to change ourselves and be more than what we currently are. Strap on that AI suit.
So funny. Yeah. I know you want to run the world, I think, but
No, one step at a time, right?
all right.
Just Florida.
Yeah. Yeah. Just your business, right?
How about
Yeah,
money?
of
Did we talk
course.
about Moneyball, Billy Bean?
No, we didn't talk about Moneyball.
Moneyball, Billy Bean, Oakland A's manager, used data to win. The key lesson I learned from that movie was everyone has an innate bias. But when
Hmm.
we remove biases and we focus on results and statistics, we win. And let's go back to those quirky people, Zappos, that whole world. I truly believe that performers are not always these well dressed, mannered corporate types. We know the types, Michelle.
Yeah.
And they cost a lot of money too, by the way, for a startup. But the reality is that everyone's got talent, everyone's got unique abilities, and we just need to find that within them. And the way that movie really did say something, it talked about how, as an athlete, if they had the statistics, why not just hire them? Because there were all these biases that existed in society, and they didn't do that. And when they began to just remove all the biases and focus on individuals, they were more successful. And I thought that was a really good lesson for startups.
Okay. What
Oh, you want
else?
me to come up with some more? I got more where this came from.
I'm sure you do. But you mentioned it
I'm gonna
earlier.
go into my article, my new article coming out. Okay,
Go for
it's
it.
I have to load it up. I have to load it up here, but give me 1 minute. Here we go. Shows, the TV shows. Oh, you actually used one. Silicon Valley was my number one.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that was depicting the startup ecosystem. I talked about that the Shark Tank. I thought that was a good
Oh,
show for
yeah. That's
entrepreneurs,
like,
but not to emulate. I'm gonna be very careful what I say here. I'm a bit of a critic of Shark Tank. I can't believe that people give up 20, 30, 40% of their ownership of their company for $50,000. It's like giving up $50,000, give up the next 25 years of your life. I think it goes a little too far. I think it's an example of how not to get investment. But at the same time, I think it's good. Of course, those who do get the investment get the publicity, and there's other benefits from it. But don't try to emulate getting $50,000 for 40% of your company. That's ridiculous. That's actually completely ridiculous. What do you like? You don't like Shark Tank, Michelle? You said you do like it.
oh, no, I actually do like it. And I hear what you're saying, but I think the people, okay, what I understand is they end up like renegotiating things after the show, to my understanding. But I feel like they really believe that whoever it is they pick as their investor, if they were lucky enough to get an offer, right? They really believe that person is going to help them move the business, Colin. Okay. And it just brings us back to a cool or a core point, I should say, that we should always be thinking about is be careful who you do let invest in your company, right? Like you need to find people that believe in you and believe in whatever it is you're doing and that you can actually work with. Because, gosh, we know it can be quite miserable when you're not in that situation and people, the investors are just fighting. That's horrible. It's like a death of a
Right.
company. So horrible. But yeah. So what else you got there?
How about We Crashed?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Isn't
I
that
watched
like
that one just
Silicon Valley
recently.
disease?
Yeah. Wow. What a
But
sales guy that guy is.
yeah,
Just going to say.
I did an article on We Crashed, this company that started WeWork, as you know. They grew very quickly. They spent out of control, had no discipline. They embraced the venture capital funding, which I call Silicon Valley. They caught Silicon Valley disease, a disease that is basically defined as a company that receives too much money too fast and then wastes it. And that's what they did at We Crashed. And we saw it happen. We saw the way that the founder, who Adam Newman, who launched it and then expanded very quickly and then blew up very fast as well. It took 5 years or so to blow up, but the reality is that he did blow up. And it's because he was out of control. The company was out of control. And they were fueled by this venture capital community and the money that just pumped into the company. And that's why they failed. They just failed because they didn't have they just were not didn't have the discipline. It was not a startup anymore. It was an abomination of, I don't know what to say. It's a success and wealth and just too much. They spent way too much to run everything.
All right. All right, let's go to books. Said it already for me. I'm a big fan of the blue ocean strategy. Like, I found that work so amazing. And what I loved about it is it's so easy to just get caught in just trying to emulate or compete, right, with your competitors rather than really stepping outside of it and thinking about how you can really change the game. And that's something that's not easy to do, but they give a really nice framework for that, Colin. They give really good exercises for it. So basically, the premise is this: get out of the bloody ocean, e.g., get into the blue ocean where there's opportunity.
Right. That looks like X Factor.
Yeah,
Sort
absolutely.
of
That's
what
yeah,
Reebok did, what Joe Foster did
right.
with going into the aerobics shoes.
And
Right,
I
get into
just read an
spaces that others are not in,
article
right?
of Skechers and how they did that. You might have seen this recently, Colin. It was in the Wall Street Journal, but they were talking about Skechers. Like everyone is Nike, everybody trying to do the cool, hip tennis shoes. And they were like, no, we're going to serve the people that are actually buying a lot of these tennis shoes, which are middle aged and older people that just want easy to put on shoes and comfortable shoes at a good price. And they're killing it. And
It's
what
funny
is
you say
a
that because I wear
very tough
Skechers
market. I know you do. And you always say to
and I
me,
slip
oh,
on.
look,
I'm like, they
look, I
slip
don't
on,
have
slip
to like
off.
bend over and take my shoes off. Yeah, you're like an old man.
Yeah, I am. I like it. There's another movie that's come out recently called Shogun. I have not seen the show yet. Sorry, not movie, but show series. I've not actually seen the show, but I've read the book.
Okay.
And it's all
You
about
read
this
the book.
leadership,
Wow.
negotiation, and navigating sort of complex culture and political landscapes. That reminds me of The Winter King too. That was a good book. If you ever read The Winter King, I know it's total fictional. It's King Arthur, but it's The Winter King, and in that book, it's really about political dynamics. What I liked about The Winter King, and by the way, they do have a streaming show for that book now. But what I liked about that one was it was not they didn't get into fantasy. It was just how King Arthur could have really actually happened. Not to say it ever did happen. I'm not saying it did, but it's a historical drama, so they use a lot of Bernard Cornwall uses a lot of historical drama to put that one in. Oh, how about The Battle for Uber. Super pumped. Did you see that show? That was really cool.
I don't think I've seen that one yet.
That one was really interesting, and how over time he ended up getting kicked out, which I'm not certain Uber benefited from, but I guess he got caught up on a few key things. Like he didn't want to tip drivers. His style was a little bit off. He was a little bit chauvinistic, and he just like the company, the way he ran it, the culture was not there. It did not. Anyway, whatever happened, but he got kicked out of the company, and you saw the way the venture capitalists was able to get in there and get control and eventually
Interesting.
kick them out. Hey, look, I'm on both sides here. I've done the same. I've kicked founders out of their companies. I admit it. I totally admit that. That's what I've done is in my career, and I've was and other investors and venture capitalists have tried to kick me out of my companies.
Hmm.
So I'm on both sides of this one. Like I can see how
You
in
felt it.
some businesses it makes sense that the entrepreneur's got to go, and in some businesses, like you think of Apple, the story where Steve Jobs got kicked out, and just wasn't cool. And it's actually the article I'm writing right now for the newsletter that's coming out on next Friday at noon. The newsletter is going to talk about how to scale your business and how to scale it using systems, goal setting, strategic planning. And of course, I bring it back to a real story, a real life story about how I was almost fired from a publicly traded company. And that's in next week's newsletter. So we're gonna lead with that article. We're also gonna have the top movies listed in that article. I don't think we've come out. I don't. We haven't come out with that in the newsletter yet, Mimi. So we're gonna add the movies to that newsletter, and that's something you can get as well from the newsletter. So if you haven't already done so, go to startup.club, sign up to the newsletter, and you're gonna get a lot of value from that. In addition, we are always asking authors and entrepreneurs to join us on the stage here, guest speakers. We have a lineup for months, like we have 3 months of speakers lined up. One thing I've asked Mimi to do is to try to avoid doing speakers every week, so that we can do open mic like we did today, where the community can come together and talk about issues or topics and just share more. So if you're listening to the podcast, come join us on stage. We truly love people coming on stage and sharing with us their ideas, their thoughts, and share with the community, because we're a lot stronger as a community of diverse individuals coming together. Michelle, thank you for the show today. Is there anything
It's a
else you want
great
to close
show.
with?
No, I really enjoyed this. It's always fun to talk about movies and stories and depictions. It just can be very inspiring, and I appreciate you putting forth this subject and everyone who came to the stage and everyone that attended. Colin, this club would be nothing without this community, so we thank you, and please be sure to check out www.startup.club. Colin said we have over 180 transcripts and blog posts, and it's all free. We ask for nothing. We just ask for your support, meaning coming to the show. So, anytime you can come to the show, we're happy to have you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And I was thinking of the book Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, Michelle, and how Star Wars made the book and Star Trek made the book. So Star Trek, I
Oh my
use
God,
that
I
as
was
an
just
example
thinking of that, but I didn't want to say it. I
for
was,
profiling individuals
yeah.
and leadership and teams. You think of Captain Spock, his dominant personality, and he's highly influential. He's a DI based on the disc profile. And then you got Spock, who's an analytical, highly analytical. He's an S. He's either an SC or a DC. He's one of those two. And then you've got Scotty, and it's just interesting. So we talk about that in the book, but also in the book, the very last chapter of the book. If you've ever seen it, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. I talk about a pinball machine that I own in my home. I know it's a weird conversation, right? We go so weird here. But I talk about a pinball machine, and in this pinball machine, I bought it it was the Star Wars pinball machine. It was the first, based on Phantom Menace, the first episode, the first number one. We'll call it Star Wars number one. It was not the first to come out. I know it was number four, but let's call it number one. Phantom Menace. And in this pinball machine, you can become a Padawan, you can become a Jedi Knight. You can become a Jedi spirit, etc. And I actually use the analogy of repeat. In the book Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, I talk about this concept that when you first start out as an entrepreneur, you're just like you're a Padawan, like you're just learning, you're just trying to figure things out. And then you succeed at it, and then you become a Jedi Knight. And then eventually you become the coach and you teach others and you become the Jedi spirit. And I use that analogy in the book Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, very last chapter. Quite an interesting angle to go down, but you can see how movies and books can play such a role in our life as entrepreneurs. Like they do influence us. And so if you actually have a book or a movie, we should do a post, but I'd love to hear more from you in the audience or on the podcast. Just go to Startup Club and tell us what book or movie that you love, and then we'll feature that as well. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern.